coach. Cori Close, the Big Ten Coach of the Year, so named by both the media and her fellow coaches. Close has led the Bruins on a historic run, coming off their first ever NCAA Final Four a season ago. They have been every bit as good this season, unbeaten in conference play, taking a 22-game win streak into the Big Ten tourney. And thrilled to be joined now by Big Ten Coach of the Year, Cori Close. Coach, your second Coach of the Year award, you won it 7 years ago in the Pac-12 as well. What do awards like this mean to you as a coach?
Well, it's meaningful because of the people that I get to surround myself with every single day. This is my first head coaching job. When I got to UCLA, people took a risk on me. And maybe even more meaningful for me is that people chose to come along for the ride and adopt our mission when there was nothing to show for it. And so for me, it's just a really humbling thing to say thank you to the people around me and to be able to also say thank you to the other coaches in the Big Ten. I mean, they make me better every single day. And the depth, the varied styles of play, it really does just give me a platform to say thank you. And that is truly the most meaningful part to me.
Big day for Lauren Betts as well, winning Big Ten Player of the Year and Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. As we mentioned when we talked to her, she's the first person ever to do that on the women's side in this conference. What's it like to coach her? What's the most rewarding part of being Lauren Betts' coach?
I think her courageous vulnerability to share her story with the world. I mean, I know most adults, I'm not sure I could have done what she has done in her time of let people into her journey. I think that has shown a strength of character and a growth that I have just admired. And it has changed lives in the process. And that being said, on the court, there was a moment in the game against USC last week where she switched in pick and roll defense and kept some of the best guards in the country in front of her. And I turned to our staff and said, she's a unicorn. She can do things that so few people can. And, it's on both sides of the ball. It's the things that don't show up in stat sheets. It's not just block shots, rebounds. It's altered shots. It's staying in front. It's defending without fouling. And, she's a generational player.
Well, she might be part of the answer to this question, Cori, but it's interesting to look at the kind of the path of this program. You had a really, really good program for quite some time at UCLA. Now you've got an elite program here over these last couple of years. What has changed?
Well, I think that there's two things. One is the individual growth of each player, the commitment to player development, and that's from our staff as well as from our players. There's just been a level of intentionality in the way that we work that has gone to another level. And on top of that, we have really been intentional with our roster construction. And we've had, everybody, we've been really fortunate to have great support and to have some people that have joined us like a Charlize Ledger-Walker, like a Tamia Gardner, like Gianna Neepkins, that have very intentionally fit into our puzzle to make it a greater whole. And so I would say, the individual growth process, Coach Wooden said the quickest way to improve a team is for everybody to improve individually. And that really has been a steady theme for us. But the intentionality with our roster construction and everybody to say, hey, I don't need to be the star. I don't need to be the biggest piece. I just want to be a part of the greatest whole. And that's easier to say than it is to hold on to. And we have had a group that has held on to that.
It's interesting. You and I spoke earlier in the season, and one of the things we were talking about was the interesting balancing act that you find yourself in this year. And that was acknowledging how special last year was, first ever NCAA women's Final Four for UCLA, but also that it didn't end the way that you wanted it to. And you were kind of talking about, we have to talk about both those things, but we really need to focus on kind of where we are as well.
Right.
So now where you are is trying to right that wrong, so to speak, to try to end it differently, get to that place again, but have that ending be different. So now that you're there, now that you're in the postseason, how do you approach it with your players?
Surrender the outcomes. I think actually the more we put weight on that, the less we're going to be as good in our process. And so I think the bottom line for us is that as we enter into this pressurized moment, we have to really rely on our training and really rely on a process, because pressure and expectations lie in putting all of your weight into the outcomes. And I believe that that actually can be a distraction in your journey to where you want to go. Our real emphasis is on the how. How are we going about our business? How are we creating a 1-0 day? And that's in practice today as much as it is in another game that's coming up. And so I really believe that, I know everybody is going to talk about that with our players, but we are really trying to tighten our focus to be completely process oriented, surrender the outcomes, and just focus on our how.
I think one of the things that's been really neat in watching this team from afar is there is obvious pressure on you guys, and yet you seem to be having so much fun. And you acknowledge this. You were saying you were talking to a fan a week or so ago who was thanking you for the joy that you have brought to their lives, and you were talking about the joy that this team brings. How do you do that? How do you have a team that does have a lot riding on them, that has a lot of pressure on their shoulders, that has 6 seniors, where the window is open, this is the year, and you still have so much fun along the way?
Well, I think they feed each other, right? I think let's be the team that has the most joy. And I think joy is a choice. Joy is a character trait. Joy is something that doesn't depend on your happenings, and it's not circumstantial. And so I think that's a great way to live. And I think the way you also feed joy is through gratitude. And so we literally every day, we're either writing I will statements or affirmations about ourselves, or we're doing 7 things we're thankful for within the last 24 hours. And the reason we're doing that is because we're trying to feed this joy and the lightness and the enjoyment, and we don't want to miss a moment. But even tonight, I'm so excited tonight. Gabriela Jaquez and Lauren Betts and Charlize Ledger-Walker are dancing with the dance team at halftime of our men's game versus Nebraska. And I'm just as excited about that as I am practice here in a couple hours. And so, I really am just trying to come alongside them. And I said, let's just treasure every part. And it's interesting because if we're treasuring every part, the intensity of our reps go up, the competitiveness of our practice goes up. All of those things, it's not a distraction, it's actually a fuel. And so, and I was honest with you earlier in the year that that's probably one of my biggest regrets of last year, is I let the weightiness and the heaviness of some things that were going on affect our celebration of the steps we were making. And I don't think I was a good enough leader to our team in that. And so I've been determined to try to do that a little bit differently this year.
I do want to ask you about one other thing before we let you go,
Sure.
and thanks for being so generous with your time.
Sure.
You talked earlier this year about coverage of the women's game and feeling like it wasn't at the level of the men's game, and wanting this team to be part of changing that. How do you go about kind of having that big picture goal about the sport and your team and the role they can play, while still focusing on, hey, what are we going to do against the press, or how are we going to, when they rotate onto us in this way, how are we going to handle it? How do you balance those two?
Delicately. I think it's also a balance, because I want to be thankful for all of the media coverage, all of the work that you all do at the Big Ten, what the media people that have faithfully shown up, for a long time. And so it's this healthy tension of being so thankful to the people that have helped in our growth, and at the same time, pushing for what I know needs to be better. And so trying to find that balance of that is sometimes a little bit tricky. I've just always been really committed to, this has got to be about growing our game as well as growing UCLA. And I actually, I have to give the Pac-12 real credit of that. There were some coaches that set a great example for me in that. Tara Vanderveer and Mike Neighbors when he was at Washington, and Kelly Graves, and these people that were willing to take off their institutional hat and said, how do we grow this game? And at that time, specifically the Pac-12. And now I was touched by that. So paying it forward is going, hey, this isn't just about UCLA. This is about women's basketball, but also women's sports. But I am passionate about that. If I have to be really honest, I opened up the paper yesterday, the LA Times, and I know there's not very many papers these days, but and counted how many in the whole sports section. We had just set these records the day before, and I had talked about it in my press conference, and there were 10 headline stories for men and 2 for women, one on Sierra Canyon and a couple of lines for Unrivaled, and nothing about us. And so, it's a reminder to me that's not to be critical, but it's a reminder to me that we need to keep pushing. So I appreciate you asking the question, but I am always trying to strike a balance between celebrating how far we've come and thanking the people that have done so much to help us get there, and then acknowledging that we really do have some systems in place and I don't think it's ever intentional to push women down in that, but I think there's some systems in place that need to be broken up and reimagined in order for us to help acknowledge the growth that women have had in especially the last couple of years.
Well, it should be a great scene for women's basketball in Indy, a city that is quite passionate about the sport, as you know, and we're really excited to have all the games that we do here on the Big Ten Network. So, Coach, really appreciate it and look forward to seeing your team in Indianapolis. Congratulations on this award and on a fabulous season.
Well, thank you very much. And I do want to end on just saying thank you to the Big Ten. I am very proud to be a part of the Big Ten Conference. And I felt incredibly supported in the journey of excellence for women's basketball. So do really want to acknowledge the incredible work that the Big Ten has done. And I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Thanks, Coach. I know the league's proud to have you in it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.